Class is in session. The Brofessor is in. What's happening, y'all? Welcome to the bargain bin for this boss battle. So if you checked out my other video, you've realized that I've picked my top 3 or 4 that I think are going to do the most damage for this boss. But here's a video for those of you that if you don't have any of those 4, or if you might only have one of those 4, because most of them are rare, here are ones that you can use that can help do some damage while you also bring in some boss breakers to help with other parts of this. So in this video, I'm going to quickly again go over some of the boss breakers that you're going to need, and then I'll get into who I think some of the posters you can use to at least help make some damage and try to get those level 20s all finished. So let's start with it. Bro time. So I want to just quickly go over one thing that is still very important for boss battles. And if you're watching this video looking for inspiration on who you should pick up in the bargain bin since you don't have some of the top 4 or 5 that I mentioned earlier, then the number one thing that you're going to bring to this is your boss breaker. You can do some damage with the posters I'm going to show you here, but your boss breaker really is your best friend. It's what's actually going to make you worthwhile in all of this. So for this boss, Hell Freezes Over is definitely one of the most important ones that you're going to bring, especially if you're lasting 3 or more turns. So this boss breaker right here, when you get it up to level 10, it will unfreeze 2 moves from all people on your team. So it's not going to unfreeze everything at level 10, but it's going to unfreeze 2 moves, so at least allow you to maintain some damage going to that boss. So that's what you would use this time around for the focused. If for the chaotic, if it actually works, neutralize is a good one to use. So I would say neutralize in order to get rid of the buff, and that actually might get rid of the boss's buff that gives extra damage for black gems on the board. But a close second, and also really good, we've found the last few times around, is the It's Time boss breaker, which gives you and your teammates more time for your turn. So both of those are really good. Pick one of the 2 that you like to use and stick with that one. When it comes to the aggressive class, the best one to use is Exhaust, and at level 10 it will reduce the damage by 50%. So you get 2 level 10s together, they go off every 45 seconds, and you are now looking at no damage every single turn. So this is a very, very important one from here on out. So if you are working on any aggressive superstar, please make sure that you are putting on Exhaust. It has the most usefulness to it. And last but not least, the only one that you should ever really work on for defensive is the Helping Hand. And that one is going to make sure that every 45 seconds, basically at the start of every turn, you are going to heal up your teammates. So while the characters I'm showing you in this are all going to help you make some damage, it is your boss breakers. It is these things right here that you need in order to be successful and take your faction and team to the next level if you don't have the best guy, period. Okay? One last thing I want to say within this is, I mentioned in the other video that every 3+ turns, this is supposed to go off. I read it that it means at the 3rd boss turn, he will freeze gems. It could also be that on his 1st turn, he freezes gems as well, right? It could be read both ways. I'm going to go in with the expectation that it's turn 3 that will happen. So I will go with the expectation that this is 1, this is turn 2, this is turn 3. But it can be the other way around as well. So let's go take a look at who is actually in the bargain bin and how they're going to roll. So the bargain bin this time has a lot of people you can use, and I've sort of put them into a couple of tiers. So a tier 1 meaning that they can do about 50 million or more. A tier 2 is someone who's going to do less than 50 million within your 60 seconds of a turn. The top 4 that I went over in my previous video, which the link will be in the description, those guys are going to do 100 million plus every single turn because they are built for this boss battle. So we'll go through each one of these in turn, and I will show you who I think are good in the bargain bin and who are going to be available to use. Rick Rude, I think, is going to be in the tier 2. He's probably going to do less than 50 million. But he is able to, with the green setup here, make a 7x7 or the entire board into these trap gems, which you can then use the sub to make columns, and then you can break them with the choose move as well. So that is one way that you could run him. I'm trying to think if there's... no, if I was going to run Rude, this is how I'm running him within this boss battle. But there's actually lots of focused superstars that you can use. And two of the best in the bargain bin, two of the tier 1 guys, are a little bit rarer, but one of them is going to be the Hall of Fame Nash. Nash is going to do really well if you don't have some of the bigger guys within this. He is going to be able to make silence gems, and he's going to be able to make them into green. He's going to have trap gems. He is able to modify almost the entire board into silence gems as well, and he has a green move that increases green move damage. So what you're going to want to do is most likely put this move in instead. We don't need the skip turn. That's not really necessary. So this is one way to run him, is with the putting on the Snake Eyes Juggernaut gem, but you might actually be better off making green gem damage in itself. But there's a few ways to run him in that sense. So Nash is going to do really well. He's got both gems and a buff, and that's usually what you need. Added on into that is the great Kali, and I think Kali is also going to be in that tier 1 of guys that you can use. If you have him, he's going to have, again, bonus damage. He's going to turn areas into purple gems. He makes a ton of random trap gems, and that's where we're going to get that extra damage. And then the sub makes red gems to load it all up again. So these are the 3 that you would run with Kali to make it go faster. Correct? Correct. I think so. Yeah. So that's how you would probably run Kali to get the most out of him. But he also, again, has... I almost forgot. He does have a silence gem and silence gem moves. But I think this was actually going to be quicker, and because you're going to be buffing this purple with the Spine Buster, you're going to be buffing purple gems. That's probably the way to go with Kali. But the other way might be interesting as well. He does make a lot of silence gems, so he's a versatile boss boss fighter for this time around. Now, Zombie HBK is in my top, so he's part of the top 3. But the others in this group here, all 3 down here are actually going to be pretty decent. They're going to be either a tier 1 or tier 2. I think the Eternal Dragon right here is going to be a good one to use. He's got the trap gems. He's got several different trap gem moves that you can do. Yeah, he's got 3 trap gem moves actually, if I'm not mistaken. So you're going to be able to do a lot of trap gem damage with Dragon. So in terms of those that do silence gems that you might want to take a look at, I don't think there's anyone beyond who I've already spoken about within there that is going to be great. So those are my focused ones. For me, if you have Riddle might be a sneaky play. I think he's going to be a tier 2. I think he's going to do less than 50 million per turn, but he does have some trap gems that you can make, in which he steals health. So he's going to be able to at least help himself stay alive a little bit more. But beyond that, you would run the purple-green moveset with the original Bro. It'll have a harder time recycling, but that's why he's in the tier 2 of the bargain bin right there. Others which you can use within this area would be the zombie dead man Undertaker. He would be one that makes a lot of trap gems and then blows up the board. Random gems going into greens, but everything else, he doesn't have anything that really buffs anything. He just does damage that way, which is why I think he won't move beyond that 50 million sort of mark. If you have perfect and you've brought him up, I'm not sure he's going to do more than 50 million. I would put him in the tier 2 if you wanted to use him, but so few people have him that high. Looking at our next one, into the aggressive category itself, it looks like Theory is a little bit more rare, but Corbin is the first one that everybody has. So he was the first one that came up for me. He's going to make a lot of trap gems, so you're going to put a whole bunch of them on the board. You can then use the choose 3x2 to swap them into black. I'm not convinced that the Spine Buster is the way to go, because the Spine Buster, I believe, is 12 gems at level 17, 11 gems at 17, and you have to choose them, and that takes a long time to choose when you're in the boss battle. So the rule of thumb of the boss battle is to find moves that you don't have to choose, that are random, that make it all their own, or you choose very, very quickly. So that's usually the way you want to go with that. The other way, you might be able to get the Juggernaut out to increase your black gem damage. It's going to create botch gems at the end of your turn, so that's not ideal, but he does get extra bonus damage for botch gems. Now, if you are going to be running Happy Corbin, the botch gem damage plus that you are getting for this bonus here is less important than you breaking as many of the gems as possible, so keep that in mind. Others within this category that you can use, as I said, Theory all day. So Theory that you're going to be able to use, he's going to steal some health, he's going to make, he's not going to steal health, he is going to make random gems into blue gems, a 1x3, so very much going to help blow up the board. Lots of those gems to work with. I'm not sure the bleed is the way to go for this. I think your best bet might actually be putting in the finisher, but I'm not sure how that would reload itself. So it might be better to put something that's going to reload these purples and these blues. The bleed's not going to do a ton of damage, and so it's going to waste a little bit of time to use that. But he has the potential, having a couple of different trap gems, to definitely work. Obviously more rare is Umaga, but Umaga is also going to do really well, having again, health steal, making a ton of trap gems with 2 different trap moves, one bleeds, one more, and then having the Juggernaut gems, which are going to add some gem damage and make random gems into purple. So probably running him at least the double traps. I'm not sure you would run the Juggernaut. It would make a tricolor build that would be hard to recycle. Last but not least, what definitely wasn't last but not least, I'm going to do this without changing over all of this and doing any edits. My kids are asleep, so we're going to roll with it. We're going to roll with the punches. One to consider that people have been getting is Jimmy Uso Bloodline, and if you do have his moment and you've been building it up, he is, and the rest of the Bloodline, going to do some damage in every faction boss, right? So this one's going to add 225% more, as well as the color finisher doing 141% more. Now, again, not game changing, and it's not going to bring him beyond tier 2. I'm not sure he's going to make more than 50 million a turn, but he is somebody that you can use if you don't have anybody else. And if you have an Uso cap or a Sheik plate, this is actually pretty decent. He would actually run the uppercut on turn 1, put down all the silence gems, and if you are unable to get the finisher off right away, then you can use the corkscrew, blow up the board as much as you can, and then once you're done that, you wouldn't use this anymore. You would just use 1 and 2 and go back and forth as quickly as possible. So that would make him maybe hit 50, maybe even more than that, depending on how quickly you can get those moves off. And the last category in the defensive, this one's going to be a really difficult category to go through. Sami Zayn does have a finisher that gives bonus 4 silence gems, and that bonus is going to be buffed by 2,000%. So the finisher is going to give his Haluva kick is going to kick Haluva a lot, and it might punch him into tier 1 status, but I'm not sure if you are better off. The problem is that his trap gems there aren't a lot of them, and they don't do much help for you. So you're going to want to run a silence gem for him. I guess the good news is that if you actually have a plate on him, and it's that plate right there, if you have the It's Time Once Again plate, it'll help you reload him, at least his yellow move, a lot faster to make all of that really work again. So it does have some ability and upside for Sami Zayn to be used. Notables in this one, Walter might be a good shout out, although he's going to be a little bit more difficult to play because his traps, he doesn't make a lot of traps. He's going to break a whole bunch of red gems. But if there was some way to actually use this red gem increase together, that's where I sort of see the problem with him, is not being able to buff a lot. So that's why I think he would be a tier 2 superstar with which to use. Other notables in here, I would recommend against using King Booker, because he is just going to make a whole bunch of freeze gems. And so while he makes the whole board into trap gems, once his freeze gems go down, which take a long time to go down, and that's not ideal, he also is going to freeze the board, and you're not going to be able to put more trap gems down. So you're kind of losing what the buff is meant to do. So instead of getting it over and over and over again, he's just not. So it would be my recommendation not to. But if you have him high enough and he's who you need to use, I would put him in a tier 2 position personally for this. I did not want to choose Bret Hart. I don't think anybody actually has him high enough to do any sort of good damage with him. Who am I missing? Cesaro was the other one that I would put in that bin as well. He, like Booker, is going to be really hard and slow to use, because you're choosing so many gems and you have to make sure you have so many of them on the board. So while this is 1 MP, it is a choose. It takes forever to put down. You're going to have to do this slam to bring your purple up, but this is going to hit hard if you can get it off. I'd be shocked if you could get it off twice for the amount of damage you want to do in 1 turn. So that's why I don't think Cesaro is the best option. But again, if he's who you have and you've leveled up his boss breakers, then that is someone you can use for sure. Last but not least, he never shows up, and this is why I don't like these modifiers, because they don't show everybody. It's definitely not you, Stevie Ray. Last but not least is Trick Ricochet. Ricochet is another one that is going to fit into the bargain bin. He does have 1 trap set up. It's going to deal damage when it goes off. You're going to make, I think it's 30 random gems into trap gems, but he doesn't do a whole lot of anything else that's really going to set a bunch of damage on the board or damage to the boss. So that's why I think he would probably be a tier 2 boss in the bargain bins for this boss battle. So last but not least, here is the lineup that I'm probably going to go with. It's for 2 reasons. One, I have KO, so I'm going to take KO, and I'll use one of the top 4 guys within this. In the focus category, Rude is probably the best one that I have, unless I can work more on Hall of Fame Nash. But one of those two will probably be the best one that I can bring for this, but neither one of them is really high. So I'm probably going to have to find somebody at 6-star, and right now my highest freeze is Hall of Fame Bret Hart at 6-star. And it's because of the boss breaker that I would be bringing in Bret Hart. It's the same reason why I'm going to be bringing in Z-Ray, because this boss breaker I have at level 10, and the same reason I'm bringing in Gable, because this boss breaker is also level 10. So while I don't have the best guy, and I do have several of them in the bargain bin itself, these are the characters that I'm going to bring in because of what I can bring to the table. I don't have the best guy. The bargain bin's probably not going to give me a ton of damage in some cases, and so I have to recognize that the best thing that I can do is bring in characters that have these totally maxed out so I can help win this boss fight. So thanks for watching. I appreciate any feedback. If you have any ideas or people that I missed, be sure to leave them in the comments. Also, if you need or have an idea of how to run them, also leave them in the comments, because in those comments you'll help other people come up with ideas so that we can all defeat this boss together. So I'm likely to have missed something, so please, absolutely, let's, as a community, make this all better. If you haven't yet, definitely check me out on my Twitch stream, Mondays, Wednesdays, Sundays, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and hopefully this has helped you. And if it has helped you and has given you an idea of what to do for this boss battle, smack that like, hit the subscribe, and the Professor gives you a big thank you, and we will see y'all next time. Class is over.